You are listening to The Thought Leaders Show with the world's cutting-edge, hottest innovators, influencers, and impact makers today. If you are looking for inspiration and motivation, listen in. Welcome to The Thought Leaders Show. Now, here's your host.
Hi, this is Tammy Patzer, and I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, Doug Phillips. Doug is a facilitator for the corporate training program used by American Express, Anheuser-Busch, AT&T, Bank of America, General Mills, General Motors, IBM, Lockheed Martin, Prudential, Remax, Verizon, and the list goes on and on. Doug helps CEOs reestablish corporate vision, then drives it throughout their organization. And today, I'm going to put Doug on the spot and ask him about how a solopreneur can act like the big boys and really move their business into overdrive. Are you up for it, Doug?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
So, Doug, first of all, tell me more about who you help in the scheme of what I just said.
What we do, we work direct with the CEOs and the board for a major corporation. They have a corporate vision. They have a mission. They want to accomplish, either bring a product or service to market. The only way that that is possible is the organization behind them has to be the driving force. Everybody's got to be on board. It's just like a crew of a sailboat. You just have one weak link. And yeah, you will eventually make it to the island, but it may take quite a bit of time to get there. So our job really is to identify exactly what they want to accomplish, all the C execs, the board, and then we drive it directly through the organization, but we do it bottom up instead of top down. So we help identify each individual's goals, exactly what everybody wants to do, and then you bring the individuals together as the team, quote unquote, the corporation, and then you reestablish the corporate goals based on all the individual goals. Because if you don't feed your people what they want, and they don't have a structure to accomplish exactly what they want, it's very difficult to keep a company together. And that's why most of them fail at such an alarming numbers relatively quickly in getting into the corporate game. So right from the start is to get everybody behind the CEOs and the boards and drive this thing like a cruise ship.
I really like that because you said the magic words, and that's from the bottom up instead of from the top down. Because I know what it's like to be in an organization where it's like, if you just ask the people who are working in this day to day, we could save you time, money, energy, millions and millions of dollars in the implementation of the bigger picture, which is, hey, we want to make more money. And I want to work for a company that really actually cares about me. And I don't think that's an unusual position to be in, that if I'm going to put all of my days and give up my time with my children, especially, I want to be working with the company that actually cares. So what would you say if I was going to take what you do in these huge corporations and bring it down to a solopreneur level? Because obviously the whole reason why we became solopreneurs or entrepreneurs and we created our own companies is because we wanted to, most likely we had a big message, a big mission. How do you work with people like that?
You have to, and it's difficult. It's probably the most difficult part of the process is taking an entrepreneur and developing an entrepreneur into a CEO. Because an entrepreneur, it's like you're still in grade school, but you're at the top of the grade in grade school. The next level is the CEO. And that's where you get into the people development. Once your product and service is, a match from what you envisioned it would be, and you're up and running, the next step is you have to develop an organization that can achieve whatever they want to accomplish through your vision. So essentially, you now graduate from, the magazine cover, the book cover. You now have to focus on the content within the book. The pages or your employees. They're the ones who are going to make this thing happen. You have to transition out of being, quote unquote, the star and get into developing stars. And if you can just wrap your mind around that, just like Bill Gates did, exactly what he did. Initially, when they started Microsoft, he was the entrepreneur. He had this idea that had never been done before. Never prior to Bill Gates did Windows exist. And it wasn't until he, the catalyst, started this thing, then he went from entrepreneur to CEO. He started to build his team and share the vision of how he sees it through them. And then slowly that essentially grew into the organization it is today. But Microsoft could never be what it was by Bill Gates alone. Yeah, he's the pilot, but you also need an outstanding crew to pilot that ship. And that is, to me, that's everything. That's where where your vision comes to fruition. You kind of have to, give up the reins a little bit and get into the people development business. And that really is the next step, transitioning from solopreneur, doing everything yourself, the one-man crew, to start to bring on people who can see what it is you want to accomplish, who are in complete compliance with what you want to accomplish. They can see themselves accomplishing exactly what they want to accomplish through this platform, this structure that you created called your company. And that's when the people development begins.
So people, and again, I can't argue with anything that you're saying, because I firmly believe that if you find the right people and treat them well, they will help you really grow your company. And you said that about, instead of that star power, and that is something about being a solopreneur and entrepreneur. In the beginning, you do everything not necessarily because you want to, but out of necessity.
Sure.
But how do you help people to see that if they really want to create a real company and a legacy, something that's going to be there way beyond our lifetime, what are some of the steps that you take someone through in order to discover this transformation, or to make that transformation?
The hardest thing is to get people to really and truly identify exactly what they want. And I tell people, you know what? You made it through the birth canal. So did Bill Gates. You have the exact same opportunity that he had. But one thing he did, which a lot of us don't or didn't do, and it's not because we chose not to do it, we just didn't know how to do it, is identify how exactly you want to do this thing called life. What is it that you really and truly want to accomplish? And if you can just spend a little bit of time, not in group thought, this is so important, it's seeking the silence and giving yourself a little break from your reality and give it a real deep thought of how you want to do this thing called life. And focus on not what you got and not what you think you can get, but what you really and truly want. That want has to metamorphosize into a need, just like food. We're hungry, but I'll tell you something, skip a meal and you become ravenous, and you're looking for that one key thing that makes you ravenous. Bill Gates, it was inevitable. He was just unstoppable as far as Microsoft birthing itself and then growing into the company it became. And to get that from people, it takes a little bit of time, because you have to face reality, and you got to get very honest with yourself. Even though you've never produced it, just like the Wright brothers, there was no plane prior to them building it. You have to really and truly spend a little time alone and identify what it is you really, really want. As ridiculous as it may be, that's the most courageous step in the whole process. And once you're locked and loaded, it becomes inevitable. And of course, then you need the supporting team to ensure that inevitability. That's the guarantee. See, your people are the guarantee that your idea comes to fruition. You may do it yourself, and for lack of a better phrase, most people do. They accomplish. But to get them to really understand what their full potential at really accomplishing the unbelievable, it's a different game. And it takes a lot of me time. There's a selfish period in your life that you have to go through and just exclude yourself from the group thought and get into the heart of exactly what you want to accomplish. What do you want to do? If you could have it your way, what do you want to do? And if you can just wrap your mind around that question, you'd be surprised how willing and compliant your mind is with feeding you the information of exactly what it is you want. And it's a tough start, but it is, as far as I'm concerned, it's the only start.
So what
Everybody's
you're saying,
got a life clock,
So what you're saying is you've got to go inside of you and quit asking other people about what they think.
Quit talking to people. The whole key is concentration. That's such a key word. Concentration, just like the Wright brothers did. They had that plane under lock and key. You don't discuss it with anybody. You're not looking for advice. You're not looking for third-party information. And he said and she said, and what do you think? That's the killer, because that's what dilutes the concentration. If you got to just sit either with a pen and paper or some alone time, me time, and really get into what this organism called you, what this thing wants. And we all have it. You just got to dust it off. It's almost like we all had it when we were kids, and somewhere along the way, it got diluted and polluted. Well, somehow you got to resurrect that little kid and get excited about, because as far as I'm concerned, this organism by design has been set up to set and achieve. And if you can just find out exactly what it is you want and feed it, man, you will just be blown away. Could you only imagine what these people thought when these two high school dropouts appeared with this flying machine and then took to the skies? 10 million years, no one's done it. There's no record. And all of a sudden, these two kids pulled this thing off. It's that same style of thinking that you really have to get to. And yes, it's inside of you. And it takes some guts to go find it and dust it off and bring it about in the face of, all the doubt out there today. But the more concentrated you stay, the less you start socializing about it. You have a pretty good shot of accomplishing it, as ridiculous as it sounds. But it's like if you were to go scale Mount Everest, why would you go out and blab to everybody and talk about it, what they think about you as a mountaineer going to scale this mountain? They'll talk you out of it. And you start to agree with them talking you out of it.
Well, that's exactly what happens to most people is,
everybody.
It can be your own mother, because I remember
can be your own family.
I remember telling my mom all I wanted to do was drive to Disney World by myself, and my daughter, she was like, "Oh, Tammy, that's too dangerous to drive by yourself." And I said, "Well, Mom, I think I was 27. I said, "Well, Mom, I think I know enough not to get into trouble, and I'll stay on the main roads." And, and back then I didn't have a cell phone, but, all of the little things. And then it was like, oh, I guess you're going to have to do it someday. But that's just a really simple thing. When you think about when you're creating your business, and some people, they have these beautiful original ideas, or maybe it's just, hey, I would like to own my own business or do my own thing. And their family members are, oh, you better get a job. You better go to college and get a degree so you can get a job.
Sure.
And even like I think about myself, I never even knew that I could have looked beyond my community college or my state college, because my world was so small. And, and now that recently where I met you, Doug, was at the Harvard Faculty Club. And I thought about that and I said, wow, I never even dreamed that being at an Ivy League school would even be a possibility when I was younger. And now, of course, I know that I could have gone and done anything. And what you're saying is to go inside yourself. And I think you're absolutely right, especially with social media today. People are so quick to ask all these total strangers their opinions about things and form, entire business decisions based on what other people who they don't even know are advising. So you've actually created a 180-day program, which is 6 months. And how does that work when you work with these people? I know you work with the big corporations, so that's a whole probably similar, but it would start with an individual. If you were to work with somebody in your 180-day program, what would that look like?
Well, we spend the first week before I reveal it. It takes every day of 180 days because it's not a weekend seminar. And to ensure the results you want, to really guarantee yourself the results you want. And once you start to understand cause and effect, because that's the premise of the entire, and then each day it's a little chipping away, to break this boulder in half. You just do it a little bit every day. You can't miss a day. The whole point is to get so focused and so concentrated on you, a little selfish time. Brian Tracy talks about that all the time. You need to be a little selfish to then be unselfish for everybody else for the rest of time. And this 6 months is to guarantee that you understand exactly what it is that you're capable of. And you mentioned, your folks and stuff about driving to Florida, to Disney World. And the most contaminating line ever invented is, what do you think? Because then as soon as you expose that, you start to invite in all the opinions and the doubters and he said and she said, and you start to dilute the concentration. You're finished. You're done. It's almost like you're better off starting anew. So the 6-month program that we do, it just involves you. It puts you on the center stage, and we go over week by week by week. And it's the understanding of it. The understanding of you is at the heart of this thing. Because you have to redevelop, you have to reestablish the I am before you then go into whatever it is that you want to do. And is it easy? No, it is not. It's not easy to go re-understand things that you once thought were true or you once thought that you did understand. And that's what took me a long time to even understand what understanding is. And it may sound simple, but I know these big people who run these huge organizations of 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 people, if that's not in place, they could never accomplish exactly what it is that they're accomplishing. And it's got nothing to do with education and MBAs and PhDs and BA, nothing to do with that. It's just reestablishing yourself, getting your confidence back, which it's all there. You don't really have to go get new. It's not about reading more books. It's just reestablishing yourself and identifying what your true potential is, which, you know what? You have no idea. Like everybody else out there knows exactly what you can accomplish, and they'll tell you, but nobody really knows what you can accomplish. And that's essentially the program, to get you through that. And it will take a half a year to do it, to then use for the rest of your life. Because once you develop yourself and you create that recipe, you can then, with authority, go help other people develop themselves. And that's the name of the game. It's replication. But you have to be worthy of the replication in your business, or no one's going to follow you. You're going to remain the one-man show. And that's what takes it takes every day of 6 months.
Well, if you think about in the scheme of life, 6 months is actually a short
drop in the
period
bucket
of time, because if we got, I always look back and I always go, wow, if I at age 17 or 18, if I had done X like this, spent 6 months of my life,
you'd be done.
I would really be way ahead, and instead, I'm what I call a little bit of a late bloomer, but it's all okay because
we all are
plugging away.
Right.
So you spend 6 solid months, meaning every single day,
7 days a week, 24 hours a day. The focus is to get out of social thought, get out of group thought, and focus in on yourself. And as crazy as it sounds, but it's like you don't have the clarity of mind yet in the beginning to really identify what you once thought your potential is. It's like your mind hasn't evolved yet. And you just mentioned the late bloomer. It's not that you're late. It's you haven't bloomed yet.
Yeah, well,
you haven't had an opportunity to bloom yet because you're so suffocated in nonsense. And the problem, if you want to know point blank, of a CEO is they have such little time to get into the blooming and the creative thinking. That's what drives their business in the first place, because they're dealing with everybody else's nonsense. Mm-hmm. So if you can just do it by yourself, you then have something to teach. And it's almost like, look, without the experience, it's very difficult to teach a kid to ride a bike if you haven't first crashed on it. You can talk theory all you want. But you can go get through this and just identify what it is you want and get yourself to bloom. That's the start of you developing other people in your business. That's how this thing spider webs right in front of your face. You won't even believe it.
So if you were to, I like that analogy of the bloom, because obviously, you start out as a seed and it starts out with the flower, and the flower is closed, and like the rose opens up, mm-hmm. and of course it presents itself and in all of its glory. And then of course it replicates. And
we're all still weeds, Yeah, but we're all still weeds. We haven't really boomed,
So people, you mentioned Bill Gates as an example of someone who, of course, he had the vision. And I imagine Steve Jobs would probably fall into that category too.
Jobs, absolutely.
So for people, and again, it doesn't always have to be that you're planning on growing this big multi-million-dollar corporation with hundreds of thousands of people.
Jenny, right. It sounds crazy, but as long as you have trajectory and you have an idea, it's almost like Edmund Hillary had an idea of climbing Mount Everest. Did he have clarity of thought of exactly what the peak is? No, because no one had ever been up there before. No one had ever done it. But as long as you have trajectory and you're headed towards the direction, wouldn't it be great if your target was to build a $200 or $300 billion company where you could employ? There's 100 million people that are not working today. Could you imagine if you put together an idea and built a company where you could help those people pay their mortgages, make their car payments, pay their health care, and they could, through the structure you provide, live out their dreams? Wouldn't it be great
phenomenal.
If you headed that way and say you only got 1/10 of it? Well, let me tell you something. I bet 1/10, if you run the numbers, would be a lot bigger than what you're doing now.
Right. Well, when you say that, because I think that as I think about that, I've had all kinds of ideas about how I could create something with my knowledge to help other people, because of my background in social media. I've thought of, wow, I could train all of these stay-at-home moms or people with disabilities how to work from home and make a really good living knowing what I know. That's like just one idea that I've had. And so I think that that's probably like many of us. And like you said, instead of taking that time to go inside ourselves and connecting the dots of who we are and what we're really here for, it is difficult. And so many people are just, like you said, they're struggling, or they're unemployed, or they don't have a big why or a purpose. And
well, you know what? Just to stay on that one thing is I kind of turn that upside down, because it's not really the why or the purpose for me.
Okay.
It's like we all have it. You got to dust it off. It's all there. You don't really have to concern yourself with why you want to do something. As far as you're concerned, why is because you want to do it. You don't have to justify to people why you want to do something.
Oh, I love that.
Right? It's not how to do it. The hows will be figured out along the way. Just like, how did Ed Hillary scale this mountain if it's never been done before? The path doesn't reveal itself until you're in it. 1 foot here, 1 foot there, 1 foot. Nobody had a route prior to him going up this thing. They had a guess along the way. So you don't even have to be concerned with how you're going to do it. Why? Just because you made it through the birth canal, so did they. Why? Because you want to do something great. That's all. The problem in the equation is who. Who is doing all of these things? Who has to be worked on? Who has to be rearranged, re-engineered to make all of this stuff happen? The best analogy I think I've ever come across in my life is, if you want to get the closest thing in nature that replicates the human mind, it's a caterpillar. The caterpillar does something so fascinating that it's almost hard to believe. You're looking at this version called a caterpillar, and just in, I think, a month's time, you're looking at this thing called a butterfly, and you cannot connect the dots. They're unconnectable. How can this thing be produced from this thing? A caterpillar will eat its heart's content. It will pig out and grow big and fat. And then the craziest thing it does is it consumes itself. And it consumes itself to initiate the metamorphosis process. Chemicals have to interact to form new things. See, prior to the butterfly, the caterpillar did not have the chemical structure to make a wing. It's not until it consumed itself that all of these different chemicals start bumping into each other to form something new that wasn't there before. And if you can just wrap your mind around that it's not a matter of you growing, it's a matter of your mind metamorphosizing. You have to put yourself in the driver's seat of this being that you want to be prior to becoming the being that you want to be. You have to see it. You got to feel it. There's an SA node on the top of your heart that dictates the pump. That thing's got to be tripped, so you know that you're feeling what you're doing. It's a real thing. It's almost like you got to live the experience prior to doing it. That's your insurance to then go out to go do it. All these successful people knew that they were a success prior to becoming a success. That is a fact. And if you doubt what I say, don't quit reading the memoirs. Go talk to those people and ask them. They knew at the start that they're going to pull this thing off. There wasn't one doubt in their mind. But you have to be it to become it. It's not the other way around. You don't become something and then be it. You're it. And if that I am is not set in stone, unfortunately, you don't have a snowball's chance in hell in getting it. And that's where we all fall short. Everybody's treading water and trying to survive and thinking, it's one more rung on the ladder. It's one more step. It's a total metamorphosis of your mind. Your thinking has to be rearranged to make it happen. And that's really the core of our 6-month program. It's to put you in the washer machine. It's not to add more of you, because more of you comes the doubt. If you were to double you and you wanted twice the house and twice the income, well, guess what? You got twice the headache, twice the doubt, twice the pride. Everything is times 2. So we don't even go that route. We put your mind right in the washer machine and get it to rearrange, to get you to metamorphosize your thinking, just like that caterpillar. It's like, look, Friday there was no plane. Monday there was a plane. Where did that thing come from? It didn't start in steps along the way. It didn't exist. These two went into the solitude and boom, out came this thing. It's a total metamorphosis of the thinking.
Well, this is what I know. Yeah, exactly. It's like
it's a lot. It's a lot to digest.
And I'm imagining my mind metaphoricizing, and I'm thinking about how important it is to, like you said, stop and go and talk to yourself or be within yourself and figure this stuff out.
Tammy, is the golden goose. Self-talk is everything, because I don't have to convince you that you can do it. I have to convince you to convince yourself that you can do it. And you have to talk yourself into it. You have to get at all costs your mind to believe so fixed that you're going to accomplish what it is you want to accomplish, that you have to be it to then become it. And it's very difficult, if not impossible, to do that in the face of a third-party witness. You'll never get it, because all they have to do is drop one little blip of iodine in a bucket of water, and guess what? The whole thing's contaminated.
Right. Wow.
So if you want to stay within that environment, and they talk about, you got to get thick skin, no, you don't. Just get away from these people. And just get into you. Get into you. Extract yourself from what you do. Pull yourself out of your group thinking. Just get a little me time, alone time, and talk to yourself, because you will talk yourself into it. And to me, that's the greatest thing, because it's then will you weigh your options. Do you really have it in you to accomplish this thing? Or is it even something else instead of this thing you thought it once was, which happened to me. I was going along this path, and I thought that was it. This was my ultimate want. And it turns out it wasn't. Here I thought all along it was. And the more self-talk, the more convincing myself that I can just do, in came ideas that didn't exist prior to. Just like that stinking plane. Where did that come from? It just, boom, it just appeared, just like the caterpillar. If you just take a look at it, it happens over a month. Where did this thing come from? You know what? Your body grows, your mind metamorphosizes. And if you can just wrap your mind around that concept and just watch this process unfold, new ideas come to you that would never be available until you initiated it, until you started believing in this whole thing called the I am. And that I am, let me tell you something. There are athletes I've spoken to who knew when they were 5 that in 15 years they're going to win it all. And they did. Wow. But the I am has to be in stone first. Robert Frost wrote a great article for Life magazine a year before he died. And in there he talks about, he took 2 words and a comma and reversed it. His reference was believing it in instead of believing in it. And here we go through life, believing in what we're doing, believing in our ability to do. You can't. You got to believe it, meaning you, in what you're doing first, or you're never going to do it. And he referenced the founding fathers, how this whole concept called America came to be. How did David defeat Goliath? How incredible a story is that? Because they believed it in. They didn't believe in it, not the cause. They believed in themselves in the cause. Just like the caterpillar, it's definitive. It's just like the great sequoia. The decision was already made in that seed. It's done. It's in stone. Now all that thing has to do is get planted and grow. It will. All that thing has to do is initiate the metamorphosis process. And that caterpillar, all it's got to do is start stuffing its face, and bam, it's inevitable. And you have to have that stuff in stone prior to doing. What does that take? It takes about a half a year to pull yourself out of doing what you're doing, shed all that mess, get rid of that group thought. And just like you said, start talking to yourself. Look, you got to fake a phone conversation. By all means, go fake it. But quit talking to other people. You have everything you need to do. You just got to convince yourself that you can do it. Is it easy? No, it's not. It's probably the hardest thing you're ever going to do. And that's what we teach. That's exactly our entire program. It's to get you armed to the teeth to go out and do exactly what it is that you want to accomplish.
And I think you said it. You said just like the seed has everything in it already.
Done.
And so we have everything inside of us already to become the person or whomever we want or need to be.
All that seed needs is nature.
Yep.
That's all it needs. All we need is us to go do it. We don't even need nature. It's like we can already become what we want prior to becoming it. We don't have to go out and buy a new suit to give us, the authority of who it is we want to become. It's in your mind. It's such a mind game, which is what I learned the most in the past decade, is this whole CEO and these great big successful companies. It is such a mind game. Look, nobody lacks the ability. Nobody lacks the skill. All that stuff is done. You wouldn't have made it through the birth canal if you didn't. It's like you have everything you need. You just got to convince yourself that you can do it. And in light of the way things are out there, let me tell you something, it is hard. I meet a lot of people who it's hard, who actually talk themselves out of believing in it. And that's what's wrong. They're already defeated prior to, the effort even blooming. Even though that seed has in it, the decision to be is already made up. All you got to do is push it in the dirt and don't dig it up. Just like an idea. One of the greatest things is what happens right after you find out you're pregnant. What do? Nothing. You do nothing. The seed is planted. Don't do anything. Like this organism knows what to do. What do? You go out and buy all the baby stuff, anticipating the arrival of. Well, it's no different than this crazy idea you have in your mind. Just quit talking to people about it. Talk to yourself.
So, Doug, if somebody wants to get in contact with you and learn more about this, I'll just call it 180-day transformation. And I don't even know if that's accurate. But
we'll go with that.
It's obviously you have to be somebody who is listening and saying, I'm not 100% sure I understand everything, but I'm really intrigued.
Of course. Look, it's a big topic.
Because I'm listening and I'm going, okay, I get that. Especially as you give examples, the caterpillar,
the models, absolutely.
The airplane, the seed. I really got it when you said the seed has everything within itself to become a sequoia. When you said that, it was like, oh, I'm really starting to understand what he's telling me. And this is extremely powerful stuff. So tell me, where can people find out more about you and your services?
Best way is to email me. My email is bgp.nfh global. N as in Nancy, F as in Frank, H as in house, global @gmail.com, because I'd like to do just the one-on-one, get to know somebody and work with them directly one-on-one. So the best way to do is just start, and then we can start the conversation from there. And then I can begin to unscrew their head, mash it up in the washing machine, and then screw it back.
Well, thank you so much, Doug. I really enjoyed talking with you. So everyone, this is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
You've been listening to the Thought Leaders Show. To get all past shows and to get all future shows, go to thoughtleadersshow.com.